Hello class, I hope you are done with your break, and now let's continue with our class on Information Security Control. I hope this will be the final presentation of Information Security Control. So let's continue and let's bear together. Okay. Here we are into a very important part and section of Information Security Control. Is the point or the concept on information security architecture. Information security architecture. This will impart a very important skill for you employed or the to be employed to be able to develop an ICT security architecture. An ICT security architecture, and actually this one is what will test your understanding of information security control and information security as well. There are things we call onion or egg model or philosophy of information security. These are what we are going to cover during this presentation. Okay, things to remember. This is very, very important. What are things to remember? Okay, an ICT security control or ICT security controls are intended to protect the information system of an organization. That is the primary intention or aim of ICT security control. By information system, we mean all the devices and the processes that handle data within the organization. The devices can either be standalone or can be interconnected, but all the devices handling and processing information system. Remember also that to protect the entire system, we must not forget a single device or process. All has to be protected. Information systems comprises of hardware, software, people, procedures. Even the ICT security system, the ICT security policy we have discussed in the previous discussion is part of it. Now you have to make sure that all the entire system are protected. Attackers normally aim at the weaker entry point. No attacker can aim somewhere which is robustly protected. They have to find for the weaker points. So you have to make sure that all have been protected, not only protected but well protected. We must also make sure that the data is protected in each and every stage of the process. And here we're going to introduce the concept of defense in depth. Also, you have to remember ICT security policies and strategies are part of the process of strengthening an enterprise ICT security. Remember these 3 points very well. They will guide us through the understanding of the development of an ICT security architecture. An important terminology therefore comes in mind when talking of an ICT security architecture. What is that? It is something called information security architecture or enterprise information security architecture. Enterprise Information Security Architecture, EISA. This is very important terminology. What is it? By definition, Enterprise Information Security Architecture is a practice of applying a comprehensive and rigorous method for describing a current and or future structured behavior for an organization's security process or organization's cybersecurity process, information security system, personnel, and organizational subunits, so that they align with the organization's core goals and strategic direction. That is the definition of an enterprise information security architecture. And as experts of information security system and someone who has graduated the BIM 312 course, you have to be able to design, to develop, or to assess an enterprise information security architecture. When it comes to the cyber world, enterprise information security architecture defines something we call cyber security posture of that particular organization. If applied to the entire nation, it becomes the national cyber security posture. Now, you should be able at least to explain what is the national cyber security posture and what it contains, and where possible, how to assess and design it. That will be very crucial. I know it is a field which is needs further studies, but here is somewhere you can start. And the national cybersecurity posture refers to an organization. The cybersecurity posture refers to an organization's overall defense against cyber attacks. It encompasses any security policies in place. We've discussed about security policies, employees, training programs, or security solutions deployed. That is a cyber security posture. The posture is a collective security status of all software, hardware, services, network, and information, and how secure the entire organization or country for that matter is as a result of those tools and processes. Actually, my students, I should advise you, understanding ICT security architecture is very, very important, and it is a skill which you will need in your entire life of cyber security or information security. What are the key tasks in building an information security architecture? The key tasks we normally go through are 6, which I will try to summarize them. Identify and mitigate gaps and vulnerabilities in the current cyber security architecture. You identify and mitigate gaps and vulnerabilities. How do we identify? Identification of vulnerabilities is done by a process called vulnerability assessment or vulnerability analysis, VA for short, which is part of the process called penetration testing. Therefore, to better produce a professional enterprise information security architecture, you should have skills and personnel on penetration testing. Again, identification and mitigation we do by the process of the process of mitigation depends on the output of vulnerability assessment. The output of vulnerability assessment or penetration testing is what will give you guidance of how to mitigate those risks which have been found. Task number 2. You analyze current and emerging security threats and how to mitigate them. You analyze current and emerging security threats. We normally do this through a process called threat hunting. Threat hunting is another field of cybersecurity, which is very, very important. And I do advise you at some point to get time and study more about threat hunting. It's a professional field in cybersecurity. Task number 3. Perform regular cybersecurity risk assessment. Risks to consider include cyber attacks, malware, leaks, personal data of customer employees, and hardware software failure events. Hence, you implement what we call business impact analysis. Risk assessment is a very important field, and in my next topic of presentation in this BIM 312, I have a very nice presentation on how to conduct risk assessment. Risk assessment is part of the task we have in building an enterprise information security architecture. Task number 4. You should identify security specific technologies such as privileged access management, as well as the security capabilities of non-security solutions such as email servers that can be used in EISA. Number 5, ensure the enterprise security architecture is aligned with business strategy. You cannot make an enterprise security information security architecture which is not aligned with the business strategy of the organization. Security should be extracted from how the company operates. Financial institutions needs a different solution to academic institutions, as I said, and other institutions. So the EISA must be in line with the business strategy. Number 6, ensure the enterprise information security architecture helps you satisfy the requirements of applicable compliance standards, both national and international. Both of them. Don't stick to the local alone or the national alone, even the international. The cyber world is a connected world. No single country can be like a village. Tanzania, we connected to other countries when it comes to cyber. Now, when formulating an enterprise information security architecture, make sure you consider the international standards as well. And if it comes that the national standards probably are a little bit weak than the international, but it's the international when it comes to cyber, because a weaker point in the national can easily be exploited by someone who is far away from this country in terms of geographical coordinates, but cyber-wise is very close. So you have to make sure that security, cyber security means reaches international standards, not just local standards. Okay, hope that is well understood. Okay, based on the information which I shared with you in my previous slide, you can build the EISA from scratch. Actually, I normally encourage people to build the information security architecture from scratch because the information is available. You have a number of references which you can refer, and knowing the basic principles, you can create the enterprise information security architecture. At the institution where you will be employed, you can be able to produce, to generate that architecture. But however, if you find building from scratch is difficult, you can follow various frameworks which are existing today. We have a COBIT 5 framework. COBIT was developed by SACA. There's COBIT 2019, but COBIT 5 was the base for the development of enterprise cyber security architecture. COBIT 2019 has more of assessments than development of enterprise information architecture. But you can get COBIT 5 architecture in the provided link. There is another one we call the Open Group Architecture Framework, TOGAF. You can download it here. It is another framework which can guide you in the building of EISA. And the US Department of Defense, the US Department of Defense has created many things when it comes to the internet world. Even the internet we are using now has its rules from the US Department of Defense, are the ones who created and designed it. Now the US Department of Defense have got the architecture framework, which has step-by-step instructions on how to prepare EISA, and it is ideal for helping multi-company organizations. Various companies can use that framework to prepare EISA. The framework again can be downloaded in the provided link. But even Tanzania were not behind. The EGA has got an architecture for building information, enterprise information security architecture. You can find it in this link, and then you can see, as the academician now, you can be able to analyze each of these and see which one is best fit for you. And mind you, if you get, if you are contesting for cybersecurity jobs in any organization, be prepared to get a question related to enterprise information security architecture, and the question of these frameworks can come in place. So you have to make sure you understand them very well. Okay. As I said earlier in my previous slides, building EISA must make sure that all components of information system are protected. Information system is like a ring, a chain of rings. And the concept of the weakest links comes like in this example. When in a chain there is a ring which is weaker, once broken, the entire chain is broken. That is the concept of the weakest link. With the weakest links are the ones which are targeted by the hacker. For example, I want to attack a particular information system. I will check the strength of the password being used. I will check how the file is configured, and so forth and so forth. If I find that users are lazy enough to use the weaker passwords, as is stated in their ICT security policy, I use various password attack technologies. Can be dictionary, can be rainbow table attacks to attack passwords, and through password attacks, then I can enter through the system and forget about the firewall. The firewall can just see me as a legitimate user. See, now human are normally viewed as the weaker points when it comes to information security. Okay, technology, if not properly selected or configured, can result in a compromised entire system. For example, in this example here, this ICT, this is a real example, and unfortunately it comes out of one particular information, financial system. You see, they configured wrongly encryption ciphers or encryption suites by mixing stronger and weaker encryptions, and the result of which the entire encryption cipher is weak and it can be broken very, very easy. They didn't consider the concept of weakest link, making them vulnerable to attack. When building the EISA, consider the defense in-depth concept, which I mentioned it earlier. The information must be protected while in motion and while at rest. That is the defense in-depth. Some do protect information while in transit. They just think, if I send an email, I should make sure only the infrastructure carrying email is safe, but in my own computer the information is safe. No, you should protect it in your own computer and during transit. That is the idea behind the defense in-depth. We will see when comparing two concepts we call egg versus onion defense approach. Okay. Defense in-depth. Follow this scenario. It's an onion ring model of defense. That think of data being at the core, and we have application, we have host, we have network, we have perimeter. You see, data, we have application, we have computer, network, and so on and so forth. Now, to protect this data, you have to make sure that you protect application, you protect host, you protect network, and you protect the perimeter. For a hacker or an attacker to reach this data, is to break all of these protections. That is the idea behind defense in-depth, and it is an idea which we normally advise people to implement, information security officers to implement in their organization. Defense in-depth approach. Okay. Data must be encrypted at all stages. You encrypt data while in a computer, or if in a mobile phone for that matter, should stay encrypted. And encryption is a very important control, as I said earlier, when it comes to information security. Data must be encrypted. Users must be authenticated. Users must be authenticated when it comes to using network resources. Access to application must be controlled. Applications has to be controlled. Not everybody or not every other application should access another application. You see, if you don't control access to applications, you make yourself vulnerable to be attacked. Then the entire system can be, the security of the entire system can be breached. Some of the mobile phones are using an idea, something called sandboxing. Sandboxing is where you prepare a special folder or a special location in your computer or your mobile phone where applications in there are protected. You cannot access them without being authenticated. Even a malware cannot approach those applications unless the malware itself gets authenticated. That's the main advantage of sandboxing applications. iPhone are using it very much, and of recently some applications, Android, I've seen some versions of Android are using sandboxing technologies as well. We advise to sandbox applications wherever possible and necessary. Sometimes we whitelist devices. If a device tries to access the information system while it is aware of the network, it has to be listed that it is a legitimate device. That's what we call whitelisting of the devices. Okay. Networks must consider intrusion detection systems in order to suppress attacks. The perimeter must be taken into account when it comes to security. This includes implementing firewalls and other physical protection. Security policies must be in place as well, and this comprises the entire defense in-depth. Okay? It's unlike an egg model. The previous one was onion ring, because it is like those onion shells. I mean onion rings, you see. But to the egg model, we find information security officers concentrating on protecting perimeter. They put a very strong and robust firewall, you see, and the egg yolk is considered the data. If someone breaks the perimeter or breaks the firewall, can access data. And sometimes the insider attacks. Some can some employees who are working within the organization can have malicious intent and can access data within the organization. Therefore, the data get compromised so easily. This is an model or philosophy of information security. It is still existing because it's a bit cheaper to implement it and a bit easier because we only concentrate to the perimeter. It's unlike the onion ring style because each part has to be protected. Therefore, security, cost increases. Probably that's why you find some of the organizations are still having this kind of security philosophy or security concept. And unfortunately, I found it in many organizations until now. If you break their firewalls, which is quite easier to break them, then you get data so easily. Therefore, I advise you to concentrate more on the onion ring style than the model side of cyber information security. Okay. In connection to that, there is a concept we call data-centric in information security. This one actually originated largely after the emergence, after the coming of cloud computing, where people are storing the information in the cloud these days. You have Google Drive, you have OneDrive. All those are some kind of cloud technologies and cloud applications. Now, companies these days are concentrating in protecting data. They are not concentrating very much in the protection of perimeter, network, things like that, because they are only handling data. Therefore, they protect data very much. Now, data-centric is an approach to security that emphasizes the dependability of the data itself rather than the security of the network servers or application. In this concept, you have to make sure you secure your data before taking it to the cloud. Okay, when you are using Google Drive, for example, to store your data, make sure before taking it to Google Drive, you encrypt it in your computer. Then all your data should stay encrypted in the Google Drive. Same to all other cloud technologies. That is data-centric. It is very important to make sure you protect your information before being sent to the cloud. Encrypt it. As you can see now, encryption is very important. Encryption is a very important control when it comes to information security. Okay. Now there is another thing we call monitoring of the EISA framework. The design framework has to be monitored. You have to make sure that it is still take into consideration all the protections which you intended it to, and the framework which can help you in the protection and the monitoring of the designed framework. NIST again come into place. NIST has procedures which will help you to continue monitoring your framework if it is still meeting the desired cybersecurity demands. NIST in one of its procedures has got 5 distinct procedures which are called identify, protect, detect, respond, and recover. All these are clearly explained in their framework, which can be found here, and I've talked to it time to time. You can go through and study it, and in case of any question about NIST, you can simply ask me, and I'm free available, and I can assist you how to go about. But it's a framework which is very famous and quite used. Okay, now there we are concluding with our topic on information security controls, and I hope you have enjoyed most of the materials out of it, go through this presentation. We send you the PowerPoint as well, and in case of any question, please don't hesitate to ask. I'll be there, but we will repeat again briefly in our class sessions before we continue with another topic on risk assessment, which is the one which will be following in our next discussion. Otherwise, I wish you a nice time in our discussions and study on this very, very important topic on information security, that is Information Security Controls.